Section 8 tenants in Arizona are living in the lap of luxury due to the fact that the voucher can cover over $6,000 in monthly rent. Okay, that's enough to be able to afford one of the nicest houses in the area. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have quite the interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Arizona, my former home. Okay, I used to live in Tucson back from 2011 until 2015 for work, and you know what? I really like Arizona. Arizona used to be considered one of the more conservative states, and it still is in a way, parts of it at least. You know, probably not in Phoenix itself or Tucson itself, but the surrounding areas and the rest of the state, they believe strongly in, property rights. They believe strongly in gun rights. And you know what? Overall, I like it, okay? I would move back there if it was an option with my family situation. But I looked at this and I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous that they are giving Section 8 tenants this much money in monthly rent, okay? It's over $6,000, okay? It's absolutely insane. Now, I know this isn't all Section 8 tenants. It's for people with bigger families, but the thing is, right, in order to afford a $6,000 monthly rent, do you know what your income would have to be? I mean, really, okay? We're talking about somebody who makes $200,000 plus a year is the only people who can afford rents that are $6,000 plus a month, aside from, of course, the government. So if you're a landlord, this works out great, okay? If you have a big house and you want to rent it at super high rates, the government is going to pay you a lot of money. Well, maybe that won't be the case for much longer because, there's going to be Section 8 cutbacks. Okay, the programs are getting cut. The amounts that they're going to cover are getting cut. The number of people who are eligible for Section 8 is getting cut. The amount of time they can stay on Section 8 is getting cut. So things are changing. This might not be forever. And this article really is putting a spotlight on the whole issue. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So first of all, do you believe that Section 8 should cover that much money in monthly rent? Okay, whether it's in Arizona or California or anywhere else. Okay, I can't. A landlord with $2 million worth of real estate, a full-time job that pays in the six figures, I can't afford $6,000 in monthly rent. Okay, I can't. But Section 8 is going to pay for some family of people who are low income to live there. What the heck is wrong with them? Okay. Anyway, put a comment in the comment section down below and let's get into this article. This article is coming from the Center Square, Arizona, and it says, Lap of Luxury. Section 8 covering Arizona rents up to $6,020 a month. Insanity, okay? Let's get into the article and see what it says. Taxpayers are covering rents of up to $6,020 per month in Arizona, leading taxpayer advocates to question the growing duration of federal Section 8 housing choice voucher usage. Section 8 needs to focus on lifting people out of the trap of poverty, not putting them into the lap of luxury, said National Taxpayers Union President Pete Sepp in an interview with the Center Square. It's unfair to ask taxpayers who can't afford mortgages or rents of $6,000 per month to foot the bill for subsidies amounting to that much. So I like to think of myself as, decently, I have a decent income, and the fact that I can't afford $6,000 a month says a lot. Now, I imagine you're a person in their 20s. You're working your butt off trying to get up, maybe be able to afford your first house eventually, right? So you're putting money to the side, and at the same time, you're living in very low income, accommodations. You're staying in an apartment where, the rent is as cheap as you can afford, and you are working your butt off, one full-time job, or maybe a full-time and a part-time, or maybe you're trying to pool you and your roommates rent together to be able to afford a place. And then you look over and you're like, hey, my tax dollars are going over to Becky over here, and she is getting a $6,000 a month house to live in a very nice neighborhood. I mean, come on, man. Now, I know that housing costs are more in like the Phoenix metropolitan area than they are here in Omaha. But regardless, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And we need to get this thing in check, okay? And the worst part is, and we'll get that further, as we go further into this article, houses aren't even renting for that much in the area. Okay, like there are huge houses. Like I think they couldn't even find a house for the article, that that was renting for that much. But let me continue. HCV recipients remain in the program for an average of 15.1 years. That's from an average of 12.4 years in 2000, according to a 2024 federal report. When asked about a 2026 budget proposal from the Trump administration that would limit the Section 8 assistance to 2 years, U.S. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner recounted his meeting with a recipient whose family had been housed by the program for multiple generations. She's 52 years old. She's been living there since 1973. She's able-bodied, able-minded. She was raised there. She lived there. Now she's raising her children there, said Turner in a video his office posted to X on August 25th, recounting a meeting with a multi-generational federal housing recipient. That's 3 generations living on government subsidies that are able-bodied, able-minded. Yeah, that's screwed up, okay? That's completely screwed up. Been living in government housing since 1973. I was born in 1979. I'm 45 years old, okay? So we're talking about 50 years in government subsidized housing. Never are going to pull yourself out of poverty if the government is paying your rent or paying, greatly subsidizing your rent. In fact, when the government is paying, like in this example of the article, $6,000+ a month for rent, what is the motivation to get off of the program? There is none. There's absolutely none. And that's why people, they will do whatever it takes to make sure that they don't lose their vouchers. Now, I am a strong believer in this, and I know that, this is going to hurt some landlords. I don't believe it's going to hurt all landlords. The majority of landlords, in my opinion, will be just fine. But there are some landlords, their whole business model is, buy a property and then rent to Section 8 tenants, relying upon that government dollar. Now, I've been a Section 8 landlord. Personally, I didn't like it, and I stopped doing it. But for some people, it works out as a business plan. They're going to have to modify their plans. They're going to have to figure out something else, or they're going to have to sell to somebody who is willing to deal with a much more volatile market, okay? When the government is the one paying you as the landlord, they control you. They control how much you charge for rent, what tenants you have to have. They control everything. And that's the reason why I don't want to deal with them anymore, okay? So, yeah, if that's your business model, good luck to you. These cuts are going to hurt, okay? Time limits are kind of an encouragement, like, hey, you can do this, continued Turner. We're not just telling you to work. We're going to have workforce training around you. We're going to have skill training around you to get out of poverty subsidies to live a life of self-sustainability. While the NYU Furman Center warns the change could push 1.1 million households out of the program, taxpayer advocates say some kind of time limits are necessary to prevent intergenerational dependency on the program. Congressional overseers are right to ask a question about whether there needs to be a rational time limit, Sepp said. It may not be 2 years, but it can't be 2 to 3 generations. The federally funded Section 8 housing assistance program covers up to 110% of the 40th percentile rents in the local area, with recipients' out-of-pocket costs capped at 30% of their aggregate gross income, with an additional 10% if the rental includes utilities. The income can include taxpayer-funded welfare payments. So, yeah, the way the Section 8 program works is that they don't make a person pay more than 30% of their, gross income. Okay, so if you only make $500 a month, right? Then you only have to pay 30% of that, or $150. Now, obviously, like when you talk to people who don't have subsidized housing, a lot of them, and I mean a lot, are paying far more than that 30% number that they use here for their calculations. Okay, especially in more expensive places, people are paying 40, 50, sometimes 60% plus of their monthly income towards their rent, because that's how much it costs. And they cut back in other places. So, you know, like if you are in New York City, for example, right, you may not need a car. So, you know, you take public transportation, or you have a e-bike, or you walk, or whatever, right? So you don't have to include the cost that somebody like me who lives in Nebraska, we pretty much have to have a car here. So you don't need to include those costs. So therefore you can use more of your monthly income towards your rent. And you have to, because the housing costs are so high. So yeah, you know, like, hey, I'm paying 50% of my income towards housing here in New York City. Yes. I mean, that's, you know, just common. Okay. But, you know, when it comes down to it, Section 8 is a huge entitlement, a huge one. And there's a lot of people on it who are dependent upon it. So I'm going to skip down a little bit in this article to the part where they talk about this $6,020 per month that they are giving people in Arizona. It says, in Arizona, the HCV program covers rents up to $6,020 per month for 6-bedroom homes in the Maricopa County zip codes of 85298 and 85331. Of the 3 available 6 or more bedroom homes listed for rent in these zip codes on Zillow, all were below the $6,020 payment standard. In 85298, the sole 6-bedroom home is on the market for $3,495 per month and comes in at 3,266 square feet with its own swimming pool and 3-car garage. So keep that in mind, right? They cover rents up to $6,020 a month. But the only property in that zip code that is, 6 bedrooms for rent, the landlord only wants like $3,500 a month. But it's a nice home. It's a really nice home, 3-car garage and a swimming pool. Okay, give me a break. Okay, do you think Section 8 tenants need a 3-car garage and a swimming pool? And what do you think landlords, okay, opportunistic landlords, are gonna do when they know that the government is paying rents that high? It inflates rents. Okay, it's obvious that that's what's going to happen. And in some cases, that is exactly what happened. Rents, they went up to match the amount that Section 8 was willing to pay. And that causes housing costs for everyone, not just Section 8 tenants. That causes housing costs for everyone to go up. But what do you think? Go ahead and put a comment in the comment section down below.